Thanks, Casey. Yeah, I'm a local blogger, and I practice civil rights law, and I used to be an assistant attorney general in Ohio, so I also was a reporter. So I kind of latched on this case by accident. Someone put a comment on my blog. It's Chris King's First Amendment page, or it's through KingCast.net. Someone put a little comment on 5/11. That day I had actually kind of complimented Kelly Ayotte regarding something else she was working on, another initiative regarding prescription drugs. And this little comment came up about another one bites the dust or something like that, and I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And it come to find out that it was the whole situation here in Franconia. Well, I had some association with people up there because I was going to go to the tennis camp up there. Someone I knew, a lawyer in a law firm in Nashua where I was living at the time, knew Mike Kenny, who was Lico's uncle, that Lico was trying to get to on 5/11 when he died. So this man had told me to go work on my game if I wanted to do that at Tamarack. But, you know, so I kind of had an affinity for the area, even though I didn't get to go at the time. And I'd always, skied at Cannon since I moved here in '02, so I, kind of knew the area. But, hearing this really shocked me, and I started following it. And then one day I got an email from one of Lico's friends named Oliver Ruff, who was with me in the video you can see at KingCast. We ended up becoming like crusaders for truth, trying to find out what really happened. And Oliver was like a part-time lobbyist here at the State House, and we started trying to dig into this thing and find out what really happened. And so our journey was kind of crazy. I mean, Oliver moved away now, but in my journey I found a number of things that were very alarming about the way that New Hampshire law enforcement investigated this case. And I found parallels to other cases. There's a Michael Paulhus case in Nashua where there was a use of police force. This time we know the officer fired his weapon, but what we don't know is the trajectories or anything like that because all the evidence was destroyed. So, make a long story short, I ended up suing the Attorney General's office and a couple of other entities, including the Franconia Police, under Right to Know Act. And I got a lot of information out of that. And, some videos that they didn't want to give us. I have the actual sound file from 5/11 that could probably be expounded on, or it probably could be researched further to see what happens after the point where Lico drives off. So that could be analyzed, and I got that through litigation, and just a number of other documents. There were complaints, ethics complaints were filed against Bruce McKay by Troy Watts. He was Lico's attorney. Troy sent me an email describing all of this, but yet they couldn't find the ethics complaint. And I mean, these were serious issues that were brewing for a long time. The situation that I addressed with Mr. Whipple, with Brad earlier, about the woman who was in the back of McKay's squad car, and she alleged, and this woman is a criminal justice major, and she's a teacher, well-respected person who was married to a police officer from another town that I won't say. At any rate, Bruce had her in the back of the car and took this, she called it a penis-shaped knife. It was a non-spec knife, and it was an alleged DUI. And she said, Bruce, I'm not drunk. Why are you doing this to me? And he had her in the handcuff and took this knife and cut her seatbelt off with it in such a way that it was kind of, going in a private area. And so she said to him, Bruce, what are you doing? What are you doing? And that is the exact same thing. The last two words out of Lico Kenny's mouth were probably, what are you doing? What are you doing? We can hear him say that on the video when he's OC sprayed without a warning. And so, to sum up, this is the kind of activity that was going on. And nobody cared about it because Bruce McKay kind of had carte blanche. And I know Casey and I disagree a little bit on what happened in 2003, but the bottom line is when there was a tussle in the park there and 3 cops took Lico down, but the thing is, McKay's whole rationale for that was that he was in a suspicious place at a suspicious time. But the Supreme Court law holds that that's not adequate, that does not give a cop, probable cause to detain you. And that's why there were other cases in Fox Hill Park that were dismissed by Judge Sear around the same block of time, late '02 to '03, where police had blocked somebody's exit without having probable cause, and you just can't do that. Come to find out, Lico wasn't doing anything anyway. He had like there was a marijuana pipe in the trunk or in his bag or something like that, but he wasn't smoking. He had no marijuana. So why is he being detained? Ab initio. So yeah, Lico was boisterous that night, and I don't excuse that. But the bottom line was, why was he being hassled?
Let me interfere with just a second.
Yeah.
Give the words that Lico used
To McKay?
Why are you doing this? You can't do this.
Yeah.
You're violating my rights.
Right, he told him, he said, you cannot keep me here without good cause. You know, he said a whole bunch of other things too, but that's the bottom line. No, you can't, but yet he did. So all that happened that night in 2003, and now the government released that 2003 video right before the 07 video, so they would kind of taint the image of Lico, and so we could kick him to the curb like that. But I analyzed it, I said, wait a minute, nope, I've written too many criminal defense motions to know that that wasn't quite right. And so, and it isn't. So now you come to 07, Lico's sitting there, and McKay violated 7 or 8, these are documented on my blog, I have the actual links to the documents, violated 7 or 8 OC spray and pursuit policies. So these are policies that are put in place to protect the officer and the civilians, you know, and third parties, like Caleb McCauley. But yet he violated these things, so naturally Lico, who's already, in his mind and in mine, you know, had his constitutional rights taken away and got beat up a little bit in 03, now he's saying, what in the hell is going to happen now with McKay here? And plus, Caleb and Lico had like kind of reached over to, they saw Gregory Floyd on the side of the road and had said, hey, they motioned to him.
Come and help me.
Come and help. But Floyd did nothing. So obviously they felt set up. You know, they're pushed back in this lot, and all hell broke loose. But bottom line was, there was never any investigation into the propriety or impropriety of that stop. Okay? Kelly Ayotte didn't do one, nor did the town of Franconia. Because once you do an investigation of that, you see that Lico might have had fear or apprehension for his safety or life, and then it's not murder, it's manslaughter. But you can't have that, because you've got Gregory Floyd, Kelly's hero, killing someone who might have done nothing more than manslaughter.
And what I think is sure, Lico Kenny may be on death row today. I mean, if his defense went the other way, he might be on death row today for shooting a police officer, but he should have been allowed to be able to give his defense in a court of law. And I think that Greg Floyd robbed him of that. Greg Floyd robbed his family of that. Greg Floyd robbed the people of Franconia of getting to any real questions in this case. And now the book Bad Blood is not just what happened on 5/11, but really how it fractured this community. It's an open wound in Franconia that hasn't healed yet, and I don't think it will heal for quite some time. So I think you know, thank you for your time tonight.
I would agree with you on that very much.
Yeah, right. Indeed.
And it needs to be done. The investigation needs to be reopened so that that wound can be cleansed. It needs to be washed out. It needs bright lights. It needs to be sanitized, sterilized, and the truth be known. And it's still out there waiting to be found out, in my estimation. And I thank you for your work in writing the book. Most of all, I thank Chris, because he was somebody I could go to and bounce ideas off and talk back and forth about what I had found out in the field. And I've never seen anyone be so bulldogish about going
I wrote about the both of you in the book. So
yeah,
so keep up the good work. And as I said, you know, I do think Floyd needs to be investigated thoroughly, and I don't think that's happened yet. So.
I think we all have our roles in this thing, and I'm glad to see Casey on it, and glad to see you on it.
What's the speed limit on that road?
Probably that's irrelevant at this point, but probably 40 to 45.
Is it that much? Yeah, I know that road.
Yeah, well, and certainly the section
stronger than what I have on the camera.
Right, yeah. The blue lights were turned on.
You gotta have an MP3 of it.
You know where the Franconia Airport is?
Yeah, this is what this is.
MP3.
Yeah, you can. Okay, you can give me that. I'll sync it. That's wonderful.
I don't have a pen.
Okay, it was owned by